Hey guys, I'm here today showing you how I make up bedding in a new worm farm. There's lots and lots of things you can use for bedding in worm farms. Some of them are better than others. This is cocoa. Sometimes people call it cocoa peat, I think, in the States. It's basically just the husk of coconuts ground up, and they usually compress it into bricks. Sometimes it's like the size of a house brick, sometimes it's huge. With your cocoa peat, what you want to look at is that some of them that are prepared for gardens that are a bit cheaper, in the processing they use salt water to wash the cocoa out. With the better brands of stuff, they've got low or no salt, pardon me, and also you want one with no added fertilizers in it. So that you know it's just cocoa. If you can't find a low salt branded one in the garden centre, they sell it at hydroponics shops. The bad thing, in my opinion, about cocoa is it costs money for a start, and it's also hard to tell the difference between castings and cocoa. It turns quite a lot darker when you pre-soak it in water. It almost looks like castings straight away, and some of the rip-off merchants around, they're basically just putting the worms into the cocoa for a couple of weeks, feeding them a little bit of food like worm chow or something, then saying that's finished castings, where we all know that it's not. So the only benefit to cocoa that I've found after a while of dealing with worms is it's good for people who want to have the worm farm inside the house or apartment, and they don't want to be dragging in grass or leaves or some other sort of material like that. So in my opinion, it's not a very good medium except for inside the house farms. Another thing I really like using a lot of is cardboard. This stuff here in this bucket I've run through the shredder. You'll see I've run it across the flutings so that you can see there's little air pockets inside each shred. There's no need to run out and buy a shredder or burn out your little domestic shredder. Before about a month ago, all I did was rip cardboard up into 4 to 6 inch squares. It's this fluted type of cardboard that's got all the little holes running down it, and it's very easy to rip it across and then rip it the other way, and just sitting there in front of the TV for an hour, you can have a big bucket of it ready to go. There's no need to buy a shredder. The other thing I like using is newspaper. Again, not running it through the shredder, just grabbing a nice thick piece of newspaper like that and running it across from the fold. Tears it into these inch wide or whatever wide strips you like, and then just give it a bit of a flap around sort of thing to get a bit of air in it, and then again pre-soak it. With my pre-soaking, I do tend to add castings to the water that I'm soaking all of the bedding in, so that you can get the microbial activity going within the bedding as soon as possible. The cardboard that you're using should be a non-shiny one. Again, there's a lot of back and forth about what's the best, can you use shiny cardboard or glossy paper. I just prefer to stick with the traditional methods of not shiny cardboard or paper. And interestingly, the glue that holds all the layers together is supposedly a cornstarch, so it's basically starchy corn. They love it. You'll often find them hiding down, usually bigger flutes than this one, like sort of this one. And if once it's in the worm farm, if you peel the layers apart, there's all worms climb down the ends of the thing, and they sit inside there. So the other things I've got here is in the bottom of the bucket. I usually like to put something absorbent and airy. If I haven't got any of this lying around, I'll explain that in a minute, I just use a handful of either dry shredded cardboard. I leave the bottom sort of couple of inches as a dry material to just absorb water and create more aeration in the bottom of the bedding. It will absorb water later and become compacted, but at least that's as much as I can do to provide aeration and non-compacting in the bottom. So what this is I jokingly call it Larry J. Shear's magic paper pulp worm bedding. It's basically newspapers pre-soaked for a couple of days, and then you run a paint mixer through it, and that's a story for another day. But that's just some stuff that I dried out on the lawn on the shade cloth, and just left it in big. I'll show you a big piece if I can find a big piece. I should have had that out to show you. So it just comes out in sort of big pieces, and it's beautiful stuff when it's still damp. It's a really good worm bedding. But anyway, so that's what I'm using in the bottom. I've got my Dolomite and zeolite and water standing by there. Again, you don't have to buy zeolite, just ignore me and my zeolite problem. Just use Dolomite or garden lime. Anyway, so I'll start making up the bedding real quick now. In the bottom of the bucket I put the dry material that'll provide drainage and air pockets in there. I'm just doing it in a 5-gallon bucket, this one. So I've got the drainage in there, and then I basically layer up. So I'll take some, and this is the aged grass clippings I've taken a video of before for you. This one's only about 2 to 3 weeks old, and it's already composted, semi-composted down. It's basically gone through its heat stage. So I'll put in a handful of that, break it up, handful of the pre-soaked cardboard, a little bit of the paper, repeat, bit of grass, bit of cardboard, bit of newspaper. So I'm about halfway up there. Like the bucket will sink down quite a bit. Like if you put worms into a new bucket like this, you probably in about 2 to 3 weeks you'll only have half the volume there, because all the air pockets will start collapsing and going down. So when I'm about halfway in, I put some Dolomite in there, which is you can use garden lime instead. Just don't use hydrated or slaked lime. Whenever I'm using Dolomite, I tend to water it in so the worms don't run into it dry. At that stage I'll put in, this is finished castings, and put in some finished castings there and give it a bit of a shake, and then basically repeat a little bit more dry grass in there. I usually like to finish off with the cardboard, so I'll put the paper in next. There's no rhyme or reason to how you do it. The worms won't really care what you do. And again, all of this stuff is pre-moistened. You can see the water in the bucket there. You can see the water in the bucket there, and the grass is really moist from being out in there. We had a couple of days of rain before I brought that in. So that's about how full I'd fill a bucket or receptacle. Usually is about halfway up on a 20 litre, which is a 5-gallon bucket. And then again I put the zeolite powder and the Dolomite in, and then give it a little sprinkle of water. And there you have it. Finished worm bedding, all from free, sustainable, easy to find materials. Grass from the backyard. You could use leaves as well, or instead of, if you had a heap of composted leaves. The cardboard, the newspaper, zeolite, which you can just ignore, Dolomite, some castings. That's it. It's quite simple. Thanks very much for watching my video.